If this timeline is real, then this building should not exist. But it does. And I'm not talking about style or aesthetics. I'm talking about mass, material, and the systems required to put that mass into place. Because once you stop looking at the story and start looking at the structure itself, something doesn't sit right. We are told the last 300 years of history, especially everything after the 1700s, is the most documented, the most reliable. Just think about that for a second. Then explain this. They tell you this tower in Lyons, Illinois, just outside Chicago, was built in 1908, completed in a single year, and described as a simple park structure. 1 year. I don't believe that, at least not the way it is presented. Because the moment you stop reading that sentence and start calculating what it actually implies, the story starts to feel incomplete. This is not decorative stone, this is load-bearing limestone. Even if you stay conservative, you are dealing with hundreds of cubic meters of material. That translates into roughly 1,500 to 2,000 tons of stone. 2,000 tons. You don't move that kind of weight quietly. You don't move it without planning. And you usually don't move it in a short window of time, without leaving something behind that shows how it was done. At that scale, this is not a small build. It behaves like a system. The stone has to be cut, then moved, then transported, and then placed step by step. At roughly 1 to 1.5 cubic meters per mason per day, even a well-organized crew would need time, coordination, and continuity. And that kind of work tends to leave a trail. Quarry activity, transport movement, labor coordination, material tracking, and here is the part that is difficult to ignore. The structure exists, the mass exists, the engineering is there, but the records that should explain it are not easy to find. So we are left with a difficult situation. Either a project involving that level of material in 1908 was completed with very little surviving documentation, or the story we are given is missing part of the picture. I'm not saying which one it is, but one of those explanations has to carry more weight than the other. Some will say records were lost, and that can happen, but usually large projects don't leave just one document behind, they leave many. Different people, different stages, different records. So when most of that trail is absent or hard to trace, it raises a question. Not a conclusion, a question. And if this was one structure, it might not mean much. But it doesn't seem to stop at one. The structure exists. The records are difficult to trace. The structure exists. The records are difficult to trace. The structure exists. And again, the explanation feels thinner than the object itself. At some point, that starts to look less like coincidence and more like a pattern. Now go 20 minutes down the road to Lemont, Illinois. Look at a grade school, also said to have been constructed in a single year. And look carefully at what surrounds it. Dirt roads, basic fencing, limited infrastructure. And beside that, a full stone structure with proportion and precision. Those two conditions don't quite match. Development usually leaves a gradient, not a jump. And here it feels like a jump. Then you look at Bethany Lutheran Church, built in 1895, completed in less than a year. Similar material, similar structural demand, similar transport requirements, placed into a timeline that feels compressed compared to the environment around it. And again, the structure is there, the engineering is there, and the documentation is harder to follow than you would expect. And this kind of question does not stop in one place. When you look wider, you start to see similar situations in different regions. Large bells, weighing thousands of pounds, placed high in towers, and later removed. That takes planning. That takes lifting systems. That takes coordination. And again, you would expect those systems to leave clearer traces. So we come back to a simple point. The structures exist, the mass exists, the engineering can be understood, the systems required can be estimated, but the records that should make everything clear are not always there in the way we expect. So we are left with a choice in how we interpret that. Either much of the documentation has been lost over time, or the story we are given is incomplete. Stone holds weight. 2,000 tons holds weight, and weight has a way of staying honest. Records are supposed to explain that weight, and when they don't, or when they are hard to trace, something feels unresolved, and that is where the question begins.